It's Wednesday, October 24th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we talk to the Youth Commission about an important community forum coming up and learn about a recently released white paper by the Housing Assistance Corporation. Let's start with some news you can use. The Barnstable Red Raiders captured their first Old Colony League football title since 2013 and won their fourth straight game, a 40-21 victory over Dartmouth last Friday night. Barnstable, 5-2, with the fifth seed, will now move on to the MIAA Division II South playoffs to face fourth-seeded Wesley, 5-2 also, in the quarterfinals on Saturday, October 27th at 3 p.m. at Wesley High School. Go Red Raiders! The Barnstable Youth Commission and the Barnstable Police Community Impact Unit are hosting a community substance abuse forum to provide information on youth substance abuse. The forum will include a PowerPoint presentation, panel presentations, panel and audience discussion, and resource tables for parents and families to get information. Everyone is invited to attend. If you encounter families struggling with youth substance abuse, please refer them to this event. Multiple agencies from various disciplines will be represented to offer support and services. We learn more from Youth Commission Chair Matt McCauley.
We, as members of the Youth Commission, have identified that substance abuse is a serious problem that we face at all ages, especially within our schools. We have been running the Community Substance Abuse Forum for 5 years now at the community college in the spring, but this year we've decided to make it earlier and really try to make an impact, especially amongst parents, informing them what's out there and how to watch out for their own children.
So we'll be holding that at the HYCC this year, which is awesome. The first year that we did have it, we had it at the HYCC, and we had a lot more people showed up. So we're looking forward to having it back there in hopes that it's more accessible for people to get there. It's open to anyone on Cape Cod. It will start at 6:30 on October 24th. The Barnstable Police will be there. We're hoping to have quite a panel set up. And we'll be showing you what's out there, from the jewels to the edibles. You won't physically be able to put your hands on everything, but there's issues in this town that the Youth Commission has physically seen at every school here on Cape Cod. So come on out, get informed, know what's out there, and let the youth and our police department show you what's going on. Probably 6 years ago, started to look at what different programs they felt needed to be done and what things needed to be offered to our community. And prevention at the time with the opioid crisis was one of the top priorities. And as a result, after looking at everything, they found out there's no money appropriated at the time. There was less than 1% of any dollar going towards prevention. And that's when the Cape Cod opioid, the HBO special went out, and everybody was so disappointed in that, it didn't show some of the good things that were happening in recovery, but we really needed to start doing prevention, and the youth identified that. And so the first year we tried it at the youth center, and it was packed. We had a lot of people show up. The development of the program has changed a little bit. In the first year, we just showed a film, and then we had someone come in and talk. The Youth Commission enjoyed that, and we had the numbers, but they identified other things that families might want to have. So we had Chris Heron one year. We've had, what's the name of the man? The magician. Do you remember?
Hackinson?
Yes, Hackinson.
Mr. Hackinson.
Robert Hackinson runs Dynamic Influence, and he came down. And we've done definitely a lot of different programs, but last year we had the Barnstable Police, and though the number of people that were there were very low, what they got was well received, and basically they felt there was a major demand for our community to know what, especially our parents and our teachers. Our teachers were horrified by what they saw, that they didn't know was in their classroom. It was in their classroom, and they didn't know it until they went to this program. So it's important that people be able to identify what's out there. It's really hard.
Overall, this program can really be used for anyone. Anyone who can make it in the community, in the area, should really try to be there. I mean, it'll be a very informative event for all. But I believe it has really special value to the parents and the teachers and those who interact with the youth, as it really helps identify what's out there. I mean, things change every month now, so it's really important to be on top of what's out there so you know how to help with the situation.
Yeah, the data that's out there is from 2017 is the last time. We can't, they're not keeping up with the data. The data is not what's happening today. So we're reacting, we're all responding to things that happened 2 years ago. You know, it's like going into 2019. Things have changed since 2017. So we need to move a little quicker, and this will get the information out quicker.
The Housing Assistance Corporation CEO, Elisa Galazzi, and Assistant Director of Housing Development, joined me in studio to talk about a white paper they have just published called Housing on Cape Cod, The High Cost of Doing Nothing. It covers the lack of year-round housing for our workforce and some multi-tiered solutions. Housing on Cape Cod, the high price of doing nothing. With me today, CEO Elisa Galazzi from Housing Assistance Corporation and David Quinn, Assistant Director of Housing Development for Housing Assistance Corporation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So there's a white paper, and it
Yes.
looked like there was an enormous amount of research that's come from this. Let's start with why.
Why? As you may remember, I've been the CEO for a little under 2 years, coming up on my 2-year mark. And so we've been looking at the agency strategically, looking at the marketplace strategically, and trying to understand the whole continuum of housing and continuum of the housing stock. And one development that's occurred in the past 6 months or so at the agency is we have had more clients coming in who are stably housed, have great jobs, and are being displaced. And we started to wonder, is this anecdotal? Is this situational? And so we decided, like, let's peel it back, look at some facts, look at the trends, and try to understand, is this something we should be concerned with and try to mitigate, or is this just situational?
So this was something that you saw in the offices of Housing Assistance Corporation, where traditionally you've dealt with very low-income people trying to find stable housing, and all of a sudden it's stable folks that are displaced out of housing as well. David, tell us a little bit about this research and how this actually came about.
Yeah, so this probably won't be any surprise to anyone out in the housing market living it. I think everyone has their own Cape Cod housing story
For sure.
of struggling to find a place to rent. But we see reports like from the Cape Cod Commission in the town that kind of talk about the magnitude of the problem and the affordable housing crisis. And so, yeah, again, as Lisa said, we just really wanted to dig in. And before we jumped into any one action in terms of, what's HAC going to do to address this problem, we wanted to really understand it. So we kind of started out as like a fact-gathering mission, pulling together different reports that are out there from different sources. We also wanted to talk to people in the community, so we went around and talked to realtors, we talked to property managers,
landlords, business owners, employees at a mid-level and high-end employees. And what we found was really interesting. Our marketplaces, Cape Codders don't like change, right? Like, I've lived here for 17 years, and I live in Orleans. I love my little village, and I'm one of those people of like, keep it cute, keep it quaint, keep my Cape Cod. But the fact is, Cape Cod is changing, and it's changing faster than we have been able to keep pace with. In fact, over the past 6 years, we have lost 3,000 year-round housing units, and we've gained 6,000?
5,000.
5,000. We gained 5,000 seasonal homes. So that shift in the inventory is something that we should all be really paying attention to.
And I mean, I think housing's always been tough on the Cape. I mean, this is nothing new, but we just started seeing it more and more at all income levels, and we knew there's something was going on. And I think when you really dig down, it's that seasonal market. More and more people are taking their second homes and trying to rent them out, and it's easier to do than it ever was before. Through Airbnb and VRBO and all sorts of different online options. So I think that's one of the big drivers of this. is how easy it is to rent it out weekly.
And we're considered a safe investment now.
Yes.
Cape Cod is considered a place to really invest your money and invest in real estate if you want to diversify your portfolio. And so, and we're seeing that in the tenants that have been long-term tenants coming in saying, I am displaced, I need a place to rent, and oh, by the way, there is no place to rent. It's less than 1% vacancy. So,
And if they do find something, it's $2,000 a month.
Right.
So, so it's the lack of availability, which obviously drives up those rental prices. So there's very little available, and the stuff that is available is not really an attainable option for a lot of people.
Let's break this down a little bit because, you know, we've always heard that, well, you know, it's lower or low income people that can't find housing, or now it's young professionals that can't find housing. Let's just break this down. It's lifestyle housing. If you're looking to downsize and you're in your 60s, there's no place to go either. It's not that this is an age or a demographic issue here. There's just no place to go.
well, what is it, 82% of our homes are single-family homes on the Cape. And in some cases that works well because of the environment and the land protection, and we don't necessarily want to change all of it, but there are other areas where you can apply some density and have more people living within an acre and get more housing out of it. So you have the smaller units.
In the paper we call it a housing monoculture. So there's pretty much 82% single-family homes. So if you're a senior looking to downsize, or a young professional who wants a studio apartment, it's just not available. I mean, you have to go out and find roommates. That's the only way you could make it work on the Cape. So we definitely need more housing in general, but specifically a lot more housing in that 1 and 2 bedroom apartment category.
And let's really break this down a little bit too, is that the single family home isn't necessarily a good solution for everyone, right? You know, if I'm a young professional, man, I want a studio apartment. I want to be close to the nightlife in Hyannis or another town. And then as a senior, I may want a community where there's people around me that, I have a little condo and somebody shovels my driveway, right? So talk a little bit about some numbers here, because I think that usually is one of the things that people pay attention to. Is you say there's less than 1% of stock now. That's just a crazy number.
Yeah, so to kind of give you a comparison, so a healthy rental market has between 5 and 7% vacancy. That's just sort of kind of like the unemployment rate. It's like there's a healthy vacancy rate, just like turning over of properties. If it's 1%, that really means that there's nothing available. As soon as anything comes available, it's rented. So it's not uncommon for a property owner who lists their property on Craigslist to get 100, 200 emails when they list it. And so that's a lot. From the property owner side, that's a lot to sort through. But I mean, think about on the renter side. You're sending out emails trying to find a place to live, you're getting no responses. I mean, that's the reality of the housing market right now. So.
So the trickle-down piece of this, I hate to use that phrase because it always makes me cringe.
Politics,
but it does. There is this trickle-down. So what happens when we don't have available housing? I mean, the Cape's got to run, right? I mean, we need people to work. What happens?
People leave. They are living in Plymouth and they're commuting onto the Cape, or they're living in a less expensive place, or they, in order to keep Cape Cod competitive, we have to attract and retain a good workforce. And people who can get jobs elsewhere and have the better cost of living are leaving, and we're seeing that. Right now we have like 25,000 people who commute onto the Cape to work here.
Yeah, it's about a quarter of the workforce.
About a quarter
is commuting from off Cape.
That's just insane.
It is, but think of like the people live in Orleans and outwards. They're not commuting all the way, past that rotary, because it's too far when they don't have to commute as far, and there's more jobs closer to where they live. So the impact is impressive.
Right, and what I guess kind of got me. I read this report today, and what's gotten me is that there's no prisoners. Literally across the spectrum of business on Cape Cod, from municipalities right down to, we always know the restaurants and the tourism industry.
But the banks
and your mom and pop shops and your landscaping and your building trades.
I think that's
healthcare.
What might be the most surprising to people if you read this, is that there's this perception that it's lower middle income people that are having trouble finding housing. But what we found in talking to bankers and the healthcare industry is that they're offering good-paying jobs, 80,000 plus jobs,
executive level jobs.
And candidates are saying, "I'd love to, but I can't find a place to live.
Can't come here.
And I'm not ready
Yeah.
to buy yet. Even if their salary maybe would allow them to buy.
Right.
You're not
Or they
gonna-
can buy more elsewhere. They start looking at
Yeah.
other regions that are as attractive and other jobs that are as
So
attractive.
it becomes a real factor in someone's decision if they're going to take a job here. If they're not from here,
Right.
and they don't have that personal connection to it, and you're trying to recruit talent, it becomes a problem for sure.
But also just for local Cape Codders who are, born and raised here and who, or that live here now, right? It's hard to imagine how are you going to afford your life and save for retirement and raise your kids and work at jobs that aren't as much as you could make elsewhere, but your housing cost is a lot higher. So it's
Right.
the whole picture, the whole economics for a family and for the community that's important for us to be talking about.
Right, and one of those figures that I want you to tell people about is 30% of their income is going to housing.
Well, that's the average.
That's the average.
That's
People-
that's sort of the number that the kind of the standard you'd use to determine.
That's
if-
healthy.
Yeah, that would be
30% is
fine.
healthy. That, like anything over 30%, you start your house
Right.
poor. You
Right.
know, you have the possibility of housing instability in your future,
Right.
and the quality of life. So
But if you're paying over $2,000 a month, you're well over 30%. So that's definitely, it's very common to go over that. We see it all the time.
So we know we have the problem, right?
Yeah.
And the cost of doing nothing is really, really high. So you didn't just do a numbers paper. You kind of looked at the problem and you said, what are some of the solutions? What are some of the we don't want just one solution. We need multiple solutions because it's a multi-tiered problem. So where are we going?
well, we also looked at other communities that are a little further ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Right? Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, some communities in Colorado, and started to anticipate what's happened for them could potentially happen for us. Higher price of goods and services, lack of services for retirees. There's a fear factor, if you will, of if you can't house your workforce and the people that need to keep our community and our economy going, that starts to have a real impact on daily life.
Yeah.
So it became, we don't want to be like the, fear mongers, but it can be a little bit scary looking ahead of this. This could be a community that isn't available to any of us who are living here now, right? And none of us want that. We work so hard to live here, and we love so much living on Cape Cod. Like, how do we preserve it and protect it and create a contained workforce? Some of the strategies that we looked at, we have long-term strategies and short-term strategies. The long-term are obvious, right? We've been talking about them for years.
Yep.
Zoning.
Infrastructure.
Right.
Zoning and infrastructure, and the two conversations not happening in silos. If we can get wastewater conversation to be happening at the same time, or the realization that it impacts housing, and those conversations happening together, that's going to be more beneficial for the community and for the town and for our region. So those conversations have to be in earnest coming together.
And let's just give some folks some examples of what could happen where you might be able to have a 3 or 4 story apartment building in an area that's already sewered.
Well, let's not even go 3 or 4 stories because that really
Right.
can be scary. 2 stories. How about like commercial on one level and up above apartments,
There
right? It
you
doesn't
go.
have
Yep.
to be.
Right.
It doesn't have. We don't have to look off Cape to
Right.
try to find something that fits that doesn't fit into our region.
Yeah, and the other thing is we also recognize that not every place in every town is going to be appropriate for something like this. So
Exactly.
we talk about how there's a reason that's the zoning in some areas is set up to protect the environment. There are certain areas that we need to maintain
For sure.
in its natural beauty, but there are other areas like village centers where it would make sense to start thinking about how can we add more housing units again above stores,
Right.
accessory dwelling units, so sort of like your in-law apartment, allow people to do that more easily would go a long way.
Yeah, no, to the accessory dwelling point, David, is that is something in a short term that we can add inventory quickly into the marketplace.
Right.
If we can allow people who already have a home without adding any more bedrooms, they already have their septic, like can we get an in-law apartment? That will help relieve some of the pressure in the marketplace for sure.
Right, and those are great spots, especially if you're thinking if it might be a senior. I mean, having somebody on property with
For
you
sure.
would be a great solution for their needs as well.
Or even a second homeowner who wants somebody on the property year-round, right? There's a lot of scenarios that it could work out for families, children coming back. One of my daughters getting ready for high school or graduating from high school. I'm like, maybe I could get an accessory dwelling so she could come back and
Right.
work and live here. Things like that. So there's a lot of different scenarios for people.
Just letting people be creative with their properties and doing it in a way that
works for
that
them.
works for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the second homeowner who, more often than not, that property is vacant for most of the year. There can be some incentives for them to rent year-round rather than short-term rentals, correct?
Yep. So that you're leading us to our new program, which is Rent 365. We've changed the name 100 times. David knows more about it than I do at this point. Rent 365. But the idea is that there are 60,000 seasonal homes in our region. Right? Can any of them convert to a year-round tenancy? I mean, obviously, waterfront property, no. People that come throughout the year and use their property, no. But I live in Orleans. There are 2 homes in my neighborhood. I've lived in the same house for 15 years. I don't know if I've ever seen them there a week, the whole 15 years. Right. They don't come for whatever life situation, live out of state, maybe it's owned by a trust. So we're looking for that sweet spot. Can we find any of those homeowners that would convert or consider converting to a lease?
This is just amazing information. We're going to have more conversations about this. Near and dear to my heart as a Chapter 40B, one of the first on the Cape.
Good for you.
And we are in that position now where we want to downsize but can't. We have an affordable house that we could get back into the market, but there's no place for us to go.
Exactly. Right.
So, let's all work together. So that's my next question is how can we work together? What can the average citizen who, maybe wants to do something or learn more, what can they do?
So one of the short-term things that we're doing is we're really increasing our advocacy effort, because we believe that the higher the capacity, the more the educated populace, the more that we all know what's happening and the impact that it has on our individual lives and on our children and on the life that we so much enjoy living here, the more motivated we're going to be, right, to take action and to help guide our municipal leaders into doing the things that we believe are important. Right. So we're going to increase our advocacy effort. People can join us on that.
If you know somebody who has a seasonal rental on your street,
For
let
sure.
them know that HAC is willing to pay a $1,000 bonus if you're willing to take an empty house and turn it into a year-round rental. Okay. I mean, that would be one really quick way to do it.
Yep, come to our website. We've got more. We've got the paper online. We've got information on Rent 365 online. Right. And an opportunity for people to get involved. That's really, this is Cape Cod, right? We're grassroots. It's hand-to-hand combat, so to speak. Like, we've got to have people out there delivering the message and helping to guide the decision making.
I think people tend to kind of sit back and wait to get involved until something happens in town that they don't want. Right. So we're trying to encourage people to learn about this issue. So go to the Housing Institute, learn about the issue and understand it, and then go advocate for what you do want to see and where you want to see it.
Right, and I know that on a lot of town warrants last year and coming up this year as well are going to be those accessory units are going to be on your town warrants. So go to town meeting, get your voice heard. Can they get a hold of this piece? Is this going to be available for people to read?
It is. It's capehousing.org. If you go there, it'll be posted online.
Yep. So we developed a special website where we're going to have the report and have information on Rent 365, and people can sign up and send us an email. We'll be back in touch.
Fantastic work, folks. Anything else you want to give people to end the show?
I mean,
get involved.
Yeah, just get. We all love Cape Cod, and I understand the sentiment that we don't want it to change, but the fact is, it's changing. And we really need to get involved in architecture of those changes in order to retain the beautiful place that we live and want to live.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's a look at the community calendar. Are you working on a novel? Are you writing to entertain, educate, or inspire? Would you like to get together with like-minded people and fine-tune your work? Consider joining the new group at Centerville Library led by Sharon Anderson, PhD, who is experienced in self-publishing and will help new writers craft their works. It's a writer's workshop, and it'll be held on 6 Wednesdays, November 7th through December 19th, 1 to 3 p.m. Class will not meet the day before Thanksgiving, November 21st. Space is limited. Call Sharon at 774-238-1512 for more information and to sign up. Here's a look at upcoming boards, commissions, and committee meetings. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.